There's a quiet war happening inside you right now. You can feel it every time you try to think positive, but your body still tightens. Every time you say the affirmation, but something deeper whispers, that's not true. It's that invisible tug of war between who you want to be and what your frequency is currently broadcasting. And that's the real paradox. You can't fake frequency. You can't smile your way into coherence if your nervous system is still running on survival mode. You can't trick the field into giving you what your vibration keeps rejecting. Today, I want to show you the 3 hidden forces that shift that broadcast, not in theory, but in your cells. Forces that most people never even recognize because they're subtle, energetic, and deeply biological at the same time. Once you learn to activate them, you stop trying to control reality and start transmitting something entirely different. Think of it like a radio signal. Every thought, emotion, and micro-movement of your body is a vibration, a frequency you're tuned to. Most of us keep switching stations unconsciously. Fear, doubt, guilt, effort. We don't even realize that we're jamming our own broadcast. But when these 3 forces come online, the static clears. You can feel the exact moment your signal aligns, like turning the dial and hearing the music come through in perfect clarity. I'm not here to tell you to raise your vibe by pretending. I'm here to help you understand the mechanics of frequency, how your mind, your body, and your field interlock, and how changing one changes all. Because when you know how the signal works, you don't chase outcomes anymore. You become the clarity the universe responds to. Let's decode the first layer, what frequency really is and why most people are tuning it backward without even realizing it. Most people think frequency is about emotion. Feel high, think happy, stay grateful. That's what we're told. But emotion is just one layer of the signal. The real broadcast begins deeper, in what your body believes is safe to feel and safe to hold. Let me paint it this way. Imagine your consciousness as a radio tower. Your thoughts set the song, your emotions modulate the tone, but your body, your nervous system, controls the voltage. If your system is still wired for danger, even your most inspired thoughts will crackle with interference. You'll try to raise your vibration, but the tower itself keeps short-circuiting. That's why the first force of frequency isn't about forcing positivity. It's energetic coherence. Coherence means every layer of you, mental, emotional, physical, is playing the same song. The mind says, I'm safe. The heart agrees. The body echoes, yes. When those layers align, your field stabilizes. You stop oscillating between hope and fear. You stop sending mixed signals to the quantum field. Here's the catch. Coherence doesn't come from control. It comes from awareness. When you notice tension instead of fighting it, your signal strengthens. When you breathe through resistance instead of overriding it, the static dissolves. The universe doesn't read your words. It reads your vibration, the pattern of energy behind them. The second force is emotional conductivity, your ability to let energy move through instead of bottling it up. Think of how electricity flows through a clean wire versus one corroded with rust. Suppressed emotions are the rust. Every unspoken resentment, every repressed fear, every fake smile creates resistance in your energetic circuit. When you allow yourself to feel honestly, without judgment, your frequency amplifies. Energy finally moves. You stop leaking power through suppression. And the third force, the one that changes everything, is embodied identity. Because no matter how high you try to vibrate, you'll always return to the frequency of who you believe you are. You might align temporarily through effort, but your baseline always follows your embodied identity. When that identity shifts, when you start feeling like the person who already lives the reality you want, your frequency locks in. These 3 forces, coherence, conductivity, and embodiment, aren't separate. They're one circuit. Coherence stabilizes the signal. Conductivity amplifies it. Embodiment locks it into form. Together, they turn your frequency from a flicker into a steady transmission. But there's one myth that keeps almost everyone stuck, even after learning all this, and it's hidden inside how we've been taught to manifest. The biggest myth about frequency is that you can think your way into it. That if you just repeat the affirmation enough times, visualize vividly enough, or hold the perfect emotional state long enough, reality has no choice but to match it. It sounds empowering, but it's actually inverted. Because when you're trying to force alignment, you're already broadcasting lack. Let's make it real. Imagine this. You're waiting for a message, maybe from someone you care about, that text that could shift everything. You tell yourself, I'm chill, I'm aligned, I trust. But every few minutes, your eyes dart back to the screen. You feel the pulse of anxiety, the micro flinch when the notification sound isn't theirs. You're not radiating peace, you're transmitting tension, and the field mirrors that signal precisely. This is where most people fall into the trap. They mistake mental effort for energetic influence. But the quantum field doesn't respond to effort, it responds to state. It's not what you're saying, it's the frequency underneath. You can repeat, "I'm abundant," 1,000 times, but if your nervous system is still braced for disappointment, the universe receives the static of fear. Here's the truth most never realize. Frequency doesn't rise through control, it rises through congruence. When what you say, feel, and believe finally line up, your energy becomes readable. The field stops getting mixed messages. But the way to get there isn't through forcing calm, it's through feeling safe enough to stop pretending. Let's go back to that phone. Instead of pushing the thought away, you breathe into the ache. You admit, "I want to be chosen. I feel scared that I'm not." You let the energy of that honesty move through your chest, your throat, your stomach. You feel the truth without collapse. And something strange happens. The charge begins to dissolve. Your frequency rises not because you acted high vibe, but because you stopped splitting your energy between appearance and reality. The myth says high frequency is about constant happiness. The reality is that high frequency is authentic coherence. It's wholeness. The courage to feel what's real until your system no longer needs to hide from it. Because the moment you stop performing alignment and start embodying truth, your signal becomes unmistakable. But there's still one missing link. How your body decides whether that truth is safe to hold. And until that gate opens, no frequency can stabilize. Every vibration you emit passes through one invisible filter first, your nervous system. It's the gatekeeper of your frequency. You can think of it as the tuner between your mind's intention and your energetic broadcast. And it has one primal question it never stops asking: am I safe right now? When the answer is no, even subtly, your frequency scatters. You can feel it as tightness in your chest, shallow breathing, or that restless hum that makes stillness impossible. Your body slips into protection mode, cutting off the very energy flow you're trying to raise. It's not sabotaging you, it's protecting you from what it perceives as danger, even if the danger is just the uncertainty of expansion. This is where coherence becomes more than a concept. It becomes a physiological experience. When your nervous system relaxes, your heart rhythm smooths out. Your brain waves shift into synchrony. Your electromagnetic field expands and stabilizes. You literally become more coherent, measurable by the field you emit. And the universe, which is essentially a vast mirror of energy, begins to echo that stability back. Let's make this practical. Take a slow inhale through your nose, deeper than usual. Hold for just a moment. Then exhale softly through your mouth, like you're letting the air melt out. Do it again, but this time, as you breathe, imagine your awareness dropping from your head down into your chest. Feel the weight of your body on the chair or the floor. Feel gravity anchoring you. This simple shift tells your nervous system, "I'm safe." Now, bring to mind something you desire: money, love, freedom, whatever's alive for you. Notice what happens in your body. Is there a contraction? A tension? That's your nervous system's protective response. Don't fight it. Just stay with it. Breathe into the tightness as if you were softening it with warmth. Every exhale tells your body it's safe to feel. And as that safety builds, your frequency starts to harmonize. This is the moment coherence begins. Not when you finally manifest the thing, but when your system learns it can feel fully and stay safe at the same time. You're teaching your body that expansion isn't danger. That's why nervous system regulation isn't just self-care. It's energetic precision. It's how your tower stays stable enough to hold a higher voltage of possibility. But there's a deeper layer still. Because even with safety and coherence, your vibration can't hold if your identity still belongs to the old frequency. And that shift changes everything. Here's the trap that keeps most people circling the same patterns, even after all the breathwork, meditations, and mindset shifts. They keep trying to visit higher frequencies instead of living there. They treat alignment like a mood instead of a memory in their body. It's easy to feel tuned in for a few minutes after a powerful practice. You feel expansive, light, electric. But then, an hour later, one email, one bill, or one old trigger, and the signal collapses. Why? Because your identity hasn't caught up. A state is temporary. It's an energetic weather pattern. It comes and goes. But your identity is the climate. It's what your energy defaults to when you're not actively managing it. Until your self-concept evolves, your frequency keeps returning to its old baseline, no matter how high you spike. The nervous system plays a huge role here. It only lets you embody what feels familiar enough to be safe. That means even your most empowering visions can feel subtly threatening if they challenge your existing identity. For example, if you grew up associating wealth with loss or judgment, the moment you imagine abundance, your body tightens. You think you're blocked, but really, your identity is trying to protect you from becoming someone unfamiliar. So, how do you move from a state to an identity? You practice being the person your future already knows, not pretending, not faking, but gently wiring in the feeling tone of that version until it's no longer foreign. You don't force yourself to believe. You teach your body what it's like to belong there. One simple way to begin. Instead of asking, "How do I get there?" ask, "Who would I be if this were already true?" Then breathe as if your answer is alive in you. Notice how your posture shifts, how your energy steadies. Stay there, even for 30 seconds. That's identity rehearsal, not mental, but cellular. Eventually, this becomes your baseline. You stop visiting abundance and start being it. You stop trying to align with love and start transmitting it. Reality doesn't need convincing anymore. It simply reflects who you've become. But once this identity starts stabilizing, something fascinating happens. Timelines begin to bend. Opportunities appear that shouldn't logically exist. Time itself feels different because you've moved onto another frequency track entirely. And that's the secret most never see coming. The link between identity and timelines. Think of reality like an endless row of radio stations. Each one is already playing a different version of your life. One where you're struggling, one where you're thriving, one where you're wildly free. All of them exist simultaneously, but you can only hear the one your dial is tuned to. Identity is the hand on the dial. When your identity shifts, your dial clicks into a new station. Suddenly, synchronicities that seemed impossible start showing up. Not because you called them in, but because they were always playing on that frequency. You didn't manifest them out of nowhere. You tuned into the version of you where those realities are already normal. Let's make it tangible. Imagine you're under massive money pressure, a bill due you're not sure you can pay. The old identity feels like a victim of circumstance. Your nervous system contracts, your thoughts spiral, your actions come from panic. On that station, opportunities look scarce. People don't respond to your outreach. Ideas feel blocked. Now imagine a subtle but powerful shift. You step into the identity of someone who always finds a way, someone who is resourceful, creative, and supported. You breathe into your body as if this were already true. You feel the energy of that version in your posture, in your gaze, in your choices. Almost immediately, you start noticing options the old you couldn't see, a forgotten refund, a call from someone offering work, a solution emerging from nowhere. The situation hasn't changed. Your station has. This is why identity work is so much more than self-improvement. It's timeline selection. Each time you embody a new self-concept, you're essentially stepping into a parallel version of reality where that self is already real. The quantum field organizes around coherence. The stronger and more stable your identity, the more that station locks in. The key here is to treat this shift as familiarization, not force. You're not trying to be someone else. You're discovering the version of you that already exists and making it safe to live there. The more you do, the less it feels like an act, and the more it feels like coming home. And once that new timeline stabilizes, the next question becomes, how do you keep rehearsing this new station so your signal doesn't flicker back to the old one? That's where a simple toolkit, part science, part practice, becomes your anchor. Once you've tasted the feeling of a new identity, that subtle click where everything inside you feels like, this is me now, the next step is to keep the signal steady, because your system will try to drift back toward the old frequency, not because you failed, but because it's simply more familiar. Your job is to teach your body, your mind, and your energy that the new frequency is home. That's where a real embodiment toolkit comes in. Let's start with bridge statements. Gentle phrases that transition your system from disbelief to possibility. Instead of jumping from "I'm broke" to "I'm rich," you bridge, "I'm learning to hold more," or "It's becoming easier to feel supported." These statements keep your frequency flexible. They don't trigger inner resistance because they feel plausible. The body relaxes into them. And when the body relaxes, the frequency rises. Next, use somatic anchors. physical cues that stabilize the feeling of your new identity. You can pair a breath pattern, gesture, or posture with that elevated state. For instance, when you breathe deeply into your belly and let your shoulders roll back, your body memorizes the physiology of safety and strength. Each time you repeat that pattern, it's like retuning the station instantly, no matter what's happening around you. Then, there are embodiment drills, micro moments of acting from your future self. Let's say your new identity is one of creative flow. Every morning, before you open your phone, spend 60 seconds moving like someone who's overflowing with ideas. You can hum, stretch, or even smile into that version. This isn't pretending. It's entraining your nervous system through repetition. Frequency stabilizes through familiarity. And finally, environmental coherence. Your surroundings must reflect your new station. Clear out one drawer, one corner, one email thread that belongs to your old frequency. Your outer world mirrors your internal field. When you shift the physical, the energetic follows. Here's the beauty. You don't have to do all of this perfectly. You just need consistency. A few daily moments where your body, breath, and attention align with your chosen frequency. That's how timelines solidify. Because the moment you start rehearsing your future self more often than you replay your past, the field has no choice but to match the repetition. That's how identity becomes gravity. Have you noticed that the moment you stopped gripping so tightly, what you wanted started showing up in strange, effortless ways? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap. But before we celebrate coherence, we need to face what still disrupts it. The subtle traps that drain even the strongest signal: urgency, split focus, and control. And learning how to transmute those is what makes the difference between temporary elevation and permanent frequency. Let's be honest, staying in a high frequency isn't hard because you don't know how. It's hard because old energy patterns sneak in wearing logic's disguise. They whisper things like, "You have to hurry," or "You can't stop now," or "If you don't control this, it'll all fall apart." These voices feel practical, but they're actually energetic static. The first trap is urgency. Urgency compresses your signal. It tells your system that something's missing right now, that you have to grasp for it. But grasping means your frequency is tuned to lack. You can feel the contraction. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your mind speeds. The field reads that as pressure, not power. To transmute urgency, you don't slow down your actions, you soften your energy behind them. Try this. Before making a decision, pause for one long breath and whisper inwardly, "There's time." That phrase expands your field instantly. It reminds your body that creation happens in spaciousness, not strain. The second trap is split signaling. This is when part of you says, "I want this," but another part quietly mutters, "I don't think I can handle it." That conflict scrambles the transmission. The universe doesn't reject you. It just can't lock onto a mixed frequency. To clear this, you need radical honesty. Ask yourself, is there any part of me afraid of what I'm asking for? Don't analyze the answer. Feel it. If fear shows up, meet it like an old friend. Breathe through it until that inner voice relaxes. When all parts of you agree, your signal becomes unmistakable. The third trap is over-control. This one is sneaky because it often hides inside discipline and productivity. You tell yourself, "I'm being responsible," but energetically, you're gripping reality too tightly. Control is the nervous system's way of saying, "I don't trust the field." It blocks synchronicity, the very mechanism through which your frequency expresses. The antidote isn't passivity, it's participatory surrender. You still act, but your actions come from flow, not fear. You listen for inner cues instead of forcing outcomes. Here's how it all ties together. Urgency contracts time, split signals blur it, and control freezes it. When you release these, your timeline accelerates naturally without pushing. And when your energy finally flows without interference, that's when everyday life itself becomes your practice. Because coherence isn't something you visit in meditation. It's something you live while cooking, walking, texting, breathing. Raising your frequency isn't something that only happens in meditation or rituals. The real mastery is learning to hold coherence in the middle of your normal life, in the conversations, the waiting, the tiny choices that usually pull you back into autopilot. Think about it. Your vibration isn't just what you feel when you're calm and alone. It's the way you breathe while walking to your car, the tone you use when you say hello, the energy behind the text you send. Every one of those micro moments is either reinforcing your chosen frequency or eroding it. So integration begins with awareness. When you walk, feel your feet hit the ground with presence. Each step is an anchor, reminding your nervous system, I'm here, I'm supported. When you eat, slow down enough to actually taste your food. The act of conscious eating tells your body there's abundance, that you have time, that nourishment is safe. When you speak, listen to the vibration in your voice. Are you speaking from contraction or expansion? Even a single breath before answering can change the frequency of the entire interaction. Integration isn't about perfection, it's about repetition. You're teaching your system that coherence is your new normal, not a special state reserved for when life feels easy. The more ordinary the moment, the more powerful the practice. Here's a simple exercise. Throughout your day, pause and ask, what frequency am I transmitting right now? Don't judge the answer, just notice. Then breathe once into your chest and choose the station you want to embody. That single act reclaims your power, because this is what alignment truly means. Not escaping the human, but infusing it with awareness. When you can stay tuned even while doing laundry, paying bills, or answering emails, you've mastered embodiment. You've collapsed the divide between the spiritual and the practical. And something wild happens here. Life starts mirroring your internal steadiness. People respond differently. You attract opportunities without effort. You stop being reactive and start being magnetic. Not because you're trying to manifest, but because your signal is constant. Integration turns daily life into a living meditation. You're no longer waiting for alignment. You're broadcasting it through every motion, every breath. But there's still one final doorway left, one that expands everything we've built so far. Because once you can hold frequency in ordinary life, the field starts opening extraordinary dimensions. Love, purpose, creativity, even healing. And the way those unfold next is where the expansion truly begins. Let's step into that. When your frequency stabilizes, life doesn't just get calmer. It starts to rearrange itself around your new vibration. Relationships shift, creativity flows, health recalibrates. Purpose begins to feel less like something you chase and more like something that breathes through you. Everything that once felt separate, emotion, body, opportunity, begins to synchronize. Here's how it unfolds. The relationships that once drained you either dissolve or rebalance, not because you forced anything, but because resonance can't fake itself. When you hold a coherent signal, people either rise to meet it or gently fade out of your orbit. There's no resentment, just clarity. You begin attracting connections that match your frequency, conversations that light you up, partnerships that feel effortless, and support that seems to appear the moment you need it. Creativity amplifies next. The same energy you used to waste in overthinking now fuels inspiration. You start receiving ideas like downloads, fast, precise, alive. You might find yourself writing, building, speaking, or moving in ways that feel guided rather than planned. This isn't random. It's the result of electrical coherence between your brain and heart. Science calls it heart-brain synchronization. But energetically, it's the field giving you access to higher intelligence. And then there's health. When your nervous system stops running on stress frequencies, your body begins repairing itself. Digestion improves, sleep deepens, inflammation lowers. You literally become a new biology. Coherence heals because it ends the internal war. The body no longer has to protect against your own thoughts. Let's make it concrete with one more scenario. Picture this, a performance moment, maybe an interview, a presentation, or even stepping onto a stage. Normally, anxiety spikes. Your body prepares for judgment. But now you pause. You feel your feet on the ground. Breathe into your heart and remind yourself, this is just energy wanting to move. The contraction transforms into electricity, the same current that powers charisma. You speak from coherence and the room feels it. You're not performing, you're transmitting. That's what happens when frequency reaches every domain of your life. You stop managing reality and start collaborating with it. You become a clear instrument the field can play through. And as this expansion deepens, something even greater reveals itself. A truth that dissolves the last illusion of separation. That your frequency isn't just yours. It's part of a vast intelligence that's always been guiding you. And when you understand that, everything changes. There's a moment on this path where the line between me and the field starts to blur. You stop feeling like the one doing the tuning and start realizing you are the signal itself, consciousness expressing through a temporary form. What you once called manifestation begins to look more like collaboration with an intelligence so vast It feels both personal and infinite. At this level, frequency isn't just self-work, it's communion. Every heartbeat, every breath, every wave of emotion is the universe vibrating through you, testing how much coherence you can hold. The field doesn't test to punish, it tests to refine. It's like an orchestra tuning itself to your note. And when you relax into that awareness, something sacred happens. You stop fighting for outcomes. You start trusting timing. You start realizing that the signal you're sending isn't just shaping your life. It's feeding into the collective field that shapes everyone's. This is the paradox of surrender. The deeper you let go, the stronger your power becomes. Control collapses. Connection expands. You start noticing synchronicities not as random magic, but as feedback loops. Reflections of the exact coherence you're holding. You walk into a room and feel the resonance shift. You speak, and people soften without knowing why. It's not manipulation, it's magnetism born from alignment with source frequency. And maybe the most humbling part, you realize this intelligence isn't out there. It's not a god in the sky or a force you must beg from. It's the same awareness that beats your heart and moves the stars. You are an expression of that rhythm, learning to remember itself through form. The observer and the observed were never separate. Only the tuning was. This realization doesn't make life easier. It makes it truer. Challenges still appear, but they feel like choreography instead of chaos. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start wondering, what frequency is this moment inviting me to hold? You start seeing life itself as the ultimate coherence practice, a conversation between your signal and the field's infinite intelligence. And when that truth lands, you can feel it, the subtle click of unity, the sense that you were never alone, never behind, never disconnected. You were simply learning how to hear your own transmission clearly enough to recognize it as divine. And from that recognition, one last step remains, the integration that seals it all, turning the signal into a living rhythm that carries you forward, effortlessly, into creation itself. Let's close the loop. So here you are, not chasing the frequency anymore, but being it. The signal that once felt out of reach now hums quietly beneath your every breath. You walk differently, speak differently. The world hasn't changed overnight, but the texture of it has. Everything feels softer, clearer, more alive, like the static finally lifted and the music came through. That's what happens when the three forces, coherence, conductivity, and embodiment, become one living rhythm. You stop broadcasting from fragments. You become a unified transmission, and reality, faithful as ever, rearranges itself to meet that tone. The people you meet, the timing of events, the creative sparks that seem to fall from nowhere, all of it, perfect reflections of your broadcast. Remember our metaphor, the radio signal. You spent so long twisting the dial, chasing the right song. But now, you realize you were never meant to chase. You were meant to tune. The song was always playing. It's been waiting for you to match its clarity. Here's the quiet secret few ever share. Once you find that frequency, you don't have to hold it through effort. You hold it through truth. The moment you choose coherence over control, honesty over image, presence over performance, your frequency anchors itself. You become the still point that everything else organizes around. And from that stillness, life begins to sing through you. You start noticing how naturally things align, the right person calling at the right moment, the opportunity that feels tailor-made, the peace that no circumstance can shake. That's not luck, that's resonance. So if you felt something move in you during this, something subtle but real, that's your field tuning. Don't rush it, just keep breathing into the signal you're becoming. Have you noticed how, once you stopped trying to fix yourself, life started responding differently, as if it had just been waiting for your permission to flow? Tell me your story in the comments. It might unlock someone else's leap, because frequency isn't something you chase, it's something you remember. And now, you do.